Thistle and Verse, and today I'm going to be doing a quick haul video in terms of what inspired it. Funny story. So I follow this author on Twitter, Brent Lambert. He writes short fiction mostly. Also, I think he's a co-editor at File Lit Mag, which is a literary magazine devoted to publishing fantasy, science fiction, paranormal horror by Black authors. And he had posted about how he loves this novel, Acacia, by David Anthony Durham. I only buy books that I can't get at the library or that I have already read and I know that I love. And so I kind of have like my Goodreads organized so that I know like if I can't get them at my library, where can I find them? If they're not anywhere that I can like rent them, they're on a list. And so I had Acacia on my list, and I built this whole thing around like books I was gonna buy to like get free shipping, like since I was already getting Acacia. And then I go to my library's card catalog, and the library has Acacia, but I already got it in my head that I was gonna buy these books, and so I ended up having a haul, even though there really didn't need to be one. So here we are. So I got most of these books from thrift books. I have my like go-to used bookstore in Philly that I would usually go to, but like even once quarantine ends, I don't know how much I'll be back. Like there's like the fun of like browsing and stuff, but it seems like with thrift books I can find most of what I need at like a pretty good price, and like I don't know, I just might not be doing some of this stuff anymore. It's weird how COVID has just changed my habits. So that aside, um, first item is actually a gift. It is Dreams and Assorted Nightmares by Abu Bakr Adam Ibrahim. This is a short story collection. It's all set in this fake town called Zango. And basically, Zango, there's just weird happenings in Zango. It's like this town where like anything can happen. There's like surreal stuff. There's like people dying at like strange times. There are people who are like maybe not dying when they should. This was a gift from Sarah Perkins, who is in a book club with me. She knows that I like short story collections, and she kind of knows my reading taste, and so she gifted this to me. So big thank you to Sarah for that. And I'm looking forward to it. I haven't read anything by this author before, and it's always like fun to discover some book that's new to me. And everything else is wrapped, so I don't know what is what exactly. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Let's see. Or it won't be fun. Not these plastic bags that don't rip when you tug on them. They just stretch and stretch and stretch. Okay. So the nerve! The nerve! So this book has a 10-cent sticker on it. I know I pay more than 10 cents for this book, excluding shit. The lies. The lies, the lies, the lies. Anyway, this is a middle grade Mela and the Nanga, or Mela and the Inanga. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. By Gail Nyoka. It's set in like this fictional village in Zimbabwe, and basically there's like a drought and there's civil unrest, and there's this princess in the village who has to put a stop to all that, and there's like this mysterious figure who shows up who might be a healer, he might be something malevolent, and she's basically gonna have to be interfacing with him to right the wrongs in this kingdom. In terms of how I heard about it, it's bad. It's very bad. Basically, almost any time I find like a middle grade like this, or like an older like classic like African novel, I just assume that I heard about it through Nisi Shawl, because they have like this list of old like science fiction and fantasy books, and like including some books that might necessarily get categorized as that. but like just due to like writing traditions and stuff, they would argue that it fits in the category. And so for a while, I was just like, everything I thought came from that list. And then I went back to the list to back check it one day, and I realized that actually I had no idea how I'd heard about some of the books. So this one, I thought won a Carl Brandon Society Award. The Carl Brandon Society is a group dedicated to uplifting and celebrating speculative fiction by authors of color, and E.C. Shaw is one of the co-creators of that award. So I think this won that award. I believe it's also out of print. It's like hard to find unless it's used or unless your library has a copy. This is an old library copy. Honestly, I kind of prefer old library copies, especially with paperbacks, because I have like I don't know what you call it, but the lamination or whatever on it. It's just a little bit more durable. Like, I'm not bothered by like the stamps on the inside, like, oh, like this was a discard or like things like that. Like, this is in really good condition. Like, I'm not mad at the price. That's a lie. I am kind of mad at the price I paid for it because it says on the cover that it was sold for 10 cents. But for the condition that it's in, it's great. Like, I don't know why they marked it as the condition that it was, because this is like honestly pretty spectacular condition. This is like very pristine. I think really the only potential issue with library copies is that like so many people have handled it, and so they can get kind of beat up. But like, I'm not bothered by stickers. Like, you can just kind of like cut them off if you have a good pocket knife. As long as there isn't highlights or marks on like the text, I'm usually good with it. So yeah, that was this one. What? This will be an adventure. Let's see. Oh, okay, so there's a tab that I'm gonna pull. And the tabs never come off in one clean pull. Like, it's a nice thought, a lovely thought, but it never works that way for me. Like, I'm literally just mauling the box to get it open. Like, it doesn't. Oh, okay. So this one, I should have known what it was, because this is the only one that wasn't from Thrift Books, but I wasn't paying attention to the address. But these are Spook Lights by Eden Royce. These are 2 volumes collecting her short stories, and I got these through Lulu. If you're buying them new, Lulu is Eden Royce's preferred retailer for these anthologies. And in terms of what inspired me to pick these up, if you go to Jerry Von Page's channel, you're going to see that Eden Royce joined Solar Powered a book club for a Q&A about her middle grade that recently came out, Root Magic. And Eden Royce was just such a kind soul. She spent so much time with us, like ridiculous amounts of time with us, like far more than we had asked her to. She was just so enthusiastic to be with us. She's a wonderful speaker. You know, if you had the opportunity to, book her for speaking or about something, I would highly recommend it. She's so poised. Her voice is so soothing to listen to. And I've been reading her short fiction for a little bit. Like, a lot of the magazines that publish her will put a copy online for free. And so I knew I was going to like these books, and I figured I should pay it forward. And also, like, she was just so kind and generous during that Q&A. Like, we had mentioned that, like, the food in the book sounds delicious, and so she's like, oh, I'll make up a list of some of my favorite cookbooks for you, and she, like, sent us a list of cookbooks. I'll include that in the description box below for people who are interested, but, like, yeah, she was just going above and beyond. She was just so amazing, and so I wanted to support and get these anthologies that I would be shocked if I rated them below 4 stars, because her short fiction, it is just amazing. It's so atmospheric, so spooky. Even the stuff that isn't like outright like horrifying, there is always like this like creepy, otherworldly air to it. Her attention to detail and surroundings and like textures and feels, and especially food. Her descriptions of food, amazing. the situations that her characters find themselves in, so imaginative. A lot of the things that I've read by her involve ghosts. Everything I've read by her has had a good twist. She's just very good at short stories. She hooks you in. There's some reveals along the way that are shocking. Like, I'm never like struggling to finish a short story by Eden Royce. I'm always like invested. So you can see this is Spooklights #1, Spooklights #2, Southern Gothic horror, which is her preferred genre. Um, I guess I treated myself to a hard copy. I don't usually do that. Oh, okay. This is an open weave by Deborah Major. So I have not read much by her. I read one short story by her, which appeared in Stories for Chip, a short story anthology dedicated to celebrating the life and writing of Samuel R. Delany. He is a black gay author of science fiction. He was writing, well, he's been writing for like decades, but I think he started writing in like the late 60s, late 60s, early 70s, I think. And she was a contributor to that anthology, and I really liked the short story. I'm not going to get into it now because I know I'm going to talk about it in a wrap up at some point, but it's always interesting what black writers write that gets categorized as science fiction or fantasy. Like, I think other people who really write more about genre fiction as it's commonly like understood in US publishing have probably already talked about how certain people kind of get shunted into like realistic fiction or literary fiction when like you could argue that it's also has fantastical elements, and you could categorize it as maybe horror or maybe fantasy. And I think this is like one of those stories. It's about like 3 generations of women in this African American family. And I'm not quite sure what the supernatural element is in here. I think one of them might be able to see the future, one of them might have like visions or some sort. So yeah, that's this. Okay. This one is Kings of Earth. These people are so damn petty. They just keep leaving these sold stickers on the books so I can know how much it was marked up when I bought it. Am I going to keep buying from thrift books? Yes. Am I going to complain about these markup stickers every time? Of course, most definitely. Kings of Earth by Joe Ponder. I don't know how I heard about this one. I think it was probably from a list. Who was it? I think there's this indie author, Gerald Coleman, who's made a couple lists of like other indie black writers doing science fiction and fantasy stuff. And so I feel like that's probably how I heard about this one. This is like a sci-fi about basically mechas. That's really the only reason I picked it up, because I just love mecha, and like I've only ever heard mecha when it's referring to anime or film. And it's basically people with giant fighting robots. I don't know what more you want out of life. Like, I dig giant robots, you dig giant robots, we dig giant robots, chicks dig giant robots. Yes. Like, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, because I'm intrigued by the robots. Like, I'm seeing this robot with like webbed fingers. I'm seeing some guild looking aliens. I'm seeing a very promising looking body armor robot. And I'm not sure how I feel about the illustrations of the people. Some of this stuff might not be my thing, which I knew getting into it. Let me see if I can tell you more about this story. So there's a war going on. There's scrappers. I do like scrappers. And there's like drug cartels and the UN and conspiracies. And you know, the world might or might not end. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. We're taking a chance. We're going out on a limb. We're not letting ourselves be deterred by one book. Yes. Yes. Finally, a markup sticker in my favor. Yes, thank you. Okay, so this is What Are You Doing Here? A Black Woman's Life and Liberation in Heavy Metal by Lena Dawes. I think the title's pretty self-explanatory. It's a memoir. Does it say what exactly her role is? Okay, so she's like it sounds like she's a reviewer. She's a journalist and culture critic. And she's based in Toronto. I wish I could rec you some black metal bands. Actually, I don't listen to them, but I can give you some names if you're interested. Let me find out. When I say black metal bands, I mean metal bands with black people in them. I don't know anything about the genre of black metal. Some names I know of, there's Erzulie, there's Tetrach, there's Big Joanie. I think that was some combination of metal and punk. Forgive me, I guess. It's just, I think they're so finicky. I think the difference is so finicky. I don't know if anyone remembers those crossover CDs that used to be a thing. It's like when pop goes country, or like things like that. There's a CD of when punk goes metal, and I was like, I can't tell you the difference. I can't do it. I'm sorry. It's good, but I don't hear anything stylistically very different happening here. So yeah, that'll be the opinion that gets me escorted off of BookTube, I guess. This is a very solidly sealed package right here. It's not even a tear strip. Why? God damn it. You know it's that good old corrugated cardboard, so I can't even take some scissors to So, this is A Spectral Hue by Craig Lawrence Gidney. I mentioned this in my New Year's goals video. I want to read it this year. I asked if anyone wanted to buddy read it on Twitter, and I didn't get any takers, but that's okay. I will be reading it regardless. This is an adult horror about this town that is haunted basically by this color purple. It's showing up in like random like flowers. It's showing up in folk art. And basically this grad student who's like studying folk art of the town comes and he's like observing these encounters. Craig Lawrence Gidney is a black queer writer who's been on my radar for a little bit. I've really enjoyed his short fiction, and this will be the first novel I read by him. And here there's like a lot of black queer characters in here, which is always exciting. I do enjoy folk art. Like I remember there was an exhibit at the Philly Museum of Art recently. It was back when I had a girlfriend. Quarantine hadn't happened yet. It was a long time ago. It was not recently. I guess maybe 2 years ago at this point. And they had an exhibit on African American folk art that I really enjoyed. Like they had some of the Gee's Bend quilts. They had like metalworking and stuff. Various collages. They had memory jugs, which they probably shouldn't have had. The little placard for the memory jugs was like, people don't really know what it is. So for those who have never seen a memory jug, it's basically like a jug, a vase. It's like almost like a collage, like it's covered with like different things. Like that could be like smashed glass, shells. What else have I seen on there? Like pieces of dolls, things like that. And the placard was like, people don't really know what it's for. Like maybe it's a grave marker, and just like following the history of museums and graves of people of color, I was like, are you sure this should be here? Like, even if you're not 100% sure, are you sure you want this in here? You sure? And I like did some more reading on it, and it seems like outside of the confines of the museum, it seems like the general consensus is that memory jugs are in fact grave markers. So it's like I'm concerned. I'm worried. But yes, that was the haul. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Goodbye.